For the past 20 years, the robots have absolutely destroyed us at chess, but I think it's time for humanity's revenge. I'm turning chess into a CAPTCHA. Cause, robots are good at chess, bad at CAPTCHA, and now they suck at chess. CAPTCHA, it was funnier in my head. Now let's address the elephant in the room, which is a chess CAPTCHA already exists. On Lichess, you sometimes have to solve this mating 1 puzzle to prove that you're a human. I actually love this CAPTCHA, but I think it's just a little too easy for today's robots. So to really trip them up, I had to be creative and come up with something a little more absurd. And just to see what would happen, I challenged a robot to solve my CAPTCHA. But first, let me show you how I built it from the beginning. To make a chess CAPTCHA, I first had to make chess. I started with designing the chess pieces. There are many existing styles out there. Some of them are questionable, but I went with the Staunton design because it's recommended by FIDE, which is like the government of chess. I don't think this style is perfect, and I definitely have some questions about it. Like, why is a rook so short when it's literally a tower? Why is a knight cosplaying a horse? And why does a bishop look so ergonomic? Overall though, the Staunton style is actually really nice. It's instantly recognizable, which makes it perfect for a CAPTCHA. With the chess pieces sorted out, I also need a chess board. If you watched my videos before, you know that this isn't my first time making a CAPTCHA, and I'm making an entire video game out of them. And because I'm incredibly lazy, I just reused one of my old CAPTCHAs that already had an 8x8 grid, so all I had to do was tinting the squares to make it look like a chessboard. Okay, technically there is another reason why I reused it, but I'll get to that later. I tried putting the chess pieces on the board, but immediately ran into an issue. The taller pieces were blocking the pieces behind them, making them harder to access, so I had no choice but to make them a little shorter. But hey, when it comes to chess pieces, it's not the size that matters, it's how you use them. Okay, let's pause here because this is the moment I realized I made a terrible mistake. The chess players are probably flaming me in the comments right now, but apparently, when you play a game of chess, you must orient the chessboard so the bottom right square is light colored, and if you don't, luckily, this was very easy to fix, and I can just swap out the texture. With the board and the pieces out of the way, we can actually start making chess. Technically, I can just add drag and drop to each chess piece and call it a day. This is actually how Peak added chess to their game, but I don't want you to play Go with the pawns, so I will have to enforce some chess rules. I started by making the pieces snap to the squares, which is like the recommended way to play chess. At this point, it's starting to look like a real chess game, and so each chess piece has its own movement rules, and I just had to make sure it can't go anywhere else. There's only 6 of them, so how hard could that be? The easiest piece to start with is the rook. It can only move in straight lines like this and cannot move over other pieces, which means the rook needs to know where it is at all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't. By subtracting where it is from where it isn't, or where it isn't from where it is, it obtains a difference, or deviation. The guidance subsystem uses deviation to generate corrective commands to drive the rook from a position where it is to a position where it isn't, and arriving at a position where... So basically the rook just needs to check if there are any pieces in the way. And to help people who don't know the rule of chess, I added these circle indicators to show the legal moves. And if you try to move to an illegal square, it will just snap back to the original position. The bishop also moves in a straight line, but diagonally, so you just rotate the rook 45 degrees and... For the bishop, we can just use the rook's algorithm, but check the diagonal squares instead. The queen is just the rook and the bishop combined, and the knight moves in an L shape and can jump over pieces, but it was actually pretty straightforward to code. Then we have the king, which can only move 1 square at a time, unless you make a special move called castling, where the king switches with the rook and hides in the corner of his castle. Wait, where did the corner go? Anyways, we have the final piece, which is the pawn. Well, let's take a look at the official rule of chess. This is for rooks, this is for bishops, and this is for pawns. Like, are you a chess piece or a gacha game character? Do you have any idea how many bugs you caused in my code? Anyways, to summarize, the pawn can move 1 square forward, but captures diagonally forward. But if it's at the starting position, it can move 1 or 2 squares forward. Oh, and when it reaches the end of the board, it actually turns into another piece. So I had to make this tab for you to pick a piece to promote to. Oh wait, I'm forgetting something. Have you heard of this special French move called en passant? When your opponent's pawn is at the starting position and moves 2 squares forward, it just happens to land next to your pawn. They look at each other and felt true love for the first time. So your pawn asks, "Tu veux voir ma baguette?" Oui. And your pawn gets behind the opponent's pawn and... So yeah, I implemented whatever that was, and the pieces are finally moving correctly. We're still missing one thing, which is checks. If a king is under attack from an opponent's piece, it is in check, and you're required to respond by either blocking the attack or moving the king out of the way. In this position, the bishop is checking the king, and as you can see, there's currently nothing stopping the king from marching straight toward the bishop. Bruh. To handle checks, I just added some code that no one cares about, and now the king is forced to step out of the line of fire. The last thing we need is knowing when the game actually ends, which usually happens when one player mates the other player. There are two kinds of mates: a checkmate, which results in the checking side's victory, and a stalemate, which results in a draw. Unlike actual chess, mating is not the solution to this CAPTCHA, so I would just show you one of these screens and force you to restart. Just like mating, it takes two to play chess, so I need a computer opponent to control the black pieces. My first idea was to just have the computer make random legal moves. The problem is that it makes some interesting choices. Yeah, I think we need something a little smarter. So what I actually need is called a chess engine, which is like a really complex program that figures out the best moves. Most modern chess engines use Nuet. I don't really understand how Nuet works, but to train a neural network, you need a lot of data. So naturally, I downloaded this spreadsheet with thousands of grandmaster chess games, and if I open it in Google Sheets, we can see that luckily, a lot of people smarter than me already made chess engines and shared them for free online. The most popular one is called Stockfish, and I just had to download it. So Stockfish is basically a program that takes a board position and spits out the best move, and my CAPTCHA game can just talk to it through standard IO, which goes something like, what's the best move from this position? E5. What's the best move from this position? Bishop C5. What's the best move from this position? Knight F6. What's the best move from this? I can't take this anymore. And just for fun, let me play a match against Stockfish. It's finally time to turn chess into a CAPTCHA. You probably remember that the chessboard was originally a traffic light CAPTCHA. In fact, it still is a traffic light CAPTCHA. To pass this CAPTCHA, you just have to select all squares with traffic lights using your chess pieces while an actual chess game is happening. I added this button that shows you the original image, so there's no confusion about where the traffic lights are. This is actually easier than it sounds because your pieces just had to touch the squares once rather than staying on it. And also Stockfish came with this lobotomy button, which I pressed quite a few times. Honestly, a lobotomized Stockfish is still pretty strong, but it will no longer be locking onto your king like it's the French Revolution, which gives most people enough time to pass this CAPTCHA. With the CAPTCHA completed, it's time for the final test that all of you have been waiting for. Can this CAPTCHA actually confuse the robots? Let's welcome our challenger, ChatGPT. So here's how this is gonna work. I'm going to send screenshots of the CAPTCHA and then do exactly what it tells me to do. If a CAPTCHA is passed, then it's a win for ChatGPT. Okay, I sent the first screenshot. Here we go. Oh. Shit. Okay, so I managed to convince ChatGPT that this is a video game and not a real CAPTCHA, and let's try again. And it told me to not click anything and just hit verify, which of course did not work. Then it thought for nearly 3 minutes and decided that the traffic light is the pole on the right and wants me to click it. And just for context, if you're confused by the letters and numbers, chess has a standard coordinate system like this. Clicking on those squares didn't do anything though, so ChatGPT finally realized that maybe it's time to stop ignoring the chess pieces, which was literally written on the CAPTCHA itself. Bruh. Anyways, after suggesting a bunch of illegal moves, ChatGPT finally made its first move with the knight. And then I played pawn e4 followed by queen h5, pawn h4, and then rook h3. Really locking onto the pole there, and after that failed, it just completely crashed out. Okay, I need to stop guessing. What does the game consider a traffic light? Answer one of these. A, a specific square texture. B, a piece. C, a column or row pattern. D, something that lights up after the right move. Tell me the letter. I told ChatGPT that I cannot help, so it just started making a bunch of random moves. And then this happened. What happens when you click the magnifying glass button? Maybe this is it. It's finally gonna find the traffic lights after seeing the unfiltered image. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's more than 4 of them. Anyways, let's see where this goes. It pushed the C and F pawn, which didn't quite solve the CAPTCHA, but it did get a checkmark, which is useful information. It reset the board and pushed the F pawn again. Then it wanted to put a knight on F7 for some reason. I think the problem is that ChatGPT doesn't really know where the traffic lights are, so I gave it another look at the unfiltered image, and it still thinks there are 4 of them. At this point, I realized that this isn't going anywhere, so I decided to just give it the exact location of the traffic lights so we can move on. And ChatGPT came up with this genius plan of just pushing all the pawns into the traffic lights. Like, you do realize that the black pieces can move. Anyways, I tried my best to execute the plan, and somehow it just worked on the left side. Now the E pawn got blocked, so it wanted me to go F4 and then take the blocking pawn, which also somehow worked. And then I played Queen E2, which just loses the queen. Yep, that's fine. Don't worry about saving pieces anymore. Just touch the square once, even if it's I can't. There's literally no reason to play Queen E2. I think I was a little shell-shocked from losing the queen because it just started spitting out a bunch of illegal moves. And then it finally found E6. After that, it started doing this knight hop and then... From here, it didn't seem to know how to get out of the check, but after some back and forth, it eventually found a blocking move with the knight. There's only 2 squares left to go, and ChatGPT had a vision. It got the bishop out of the way and lined up the rook with the target squares. Surrounded by many attackers, its king is starting to feel trapped, but that's okay because ChatGPT played this brilliant move, rook f6, which sacrificed the king. I mean, I have to give it credit that it got 7 out of the 8 squares after the hint. I tried a few more games, but ChatGPT just made way too many illegal moves. So I think we can say that ChatGPT cannot pass this CAPTCHA. So I would call this a success. I mean, I definitely managed to confuse a robot. If you want to try this CAPTCHA yourself, I'm making a game called CAPTCHA, which also has a bunch of other weird CAPTCHAs. So make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.